In 1986, one man scored two of the most famous goals in football history. In the same game, 4 minutes apart. One he punched in with his hand, one he dribbled past 5 defenders and the goalkeeper. And Argentina beat England 4 years after the Falklands War. This wasn't just a football match, this was something else entirely. Diego Maradona knew it, he said it himself. This was revenge. But the 1986 World Cup is just one chapter of a story that started in the slum with no running water. A boy who played in the dark because he didn't care about anything except the ball, who turned anger into fuel, who gave an entire city its pride back, and who paid for all of it in the end. This is the full story. If you want to understand Diego Maradona, you have to start where he started, Fiorito, a slum on the outskirts of Buenos Aires. He described it himself with just one word: struggle. Their house had 3 rooms, 8 children crammed into a space 2 meters squared. When it rained, you got wetter inside than out. No sink, no running water. Every morning they carried empty oil cans to the only tap in the street so his mother could wash, cook, everything. That's how they bathed. That's how they cooked. His father worked at a factory. He had to be there at 4 in the morning. The family had to eat, so the old man worked. And Maradona watched that, and he made a decision very early on that he was going to be the one who changed it. But here's what he remembered most about Fiorito. Not the poverty, the ball. Everything I did, every step I took was because of the ball. If his mother sent him on an errand, he took something with him. An orange, scrumpled paper, cloths, anything that resembled a ball. He would hop on one foot up the steps of the bridge to school, juggling it on the left. Tack, tack, tack. On Saturdays and Sundays, he was on the waste ground all day. Weekdays from 5 o'clock, playing in the heat of the afternoon. Playing in the dark because he didn't want to stop. We played in the dark as well. Sometimes now when I hear someone going on about how in such and such a stadium there's no light, I think, I played in the dark, you son of a bitch. He debuted for the Argentine First Division 2 weeks after turning 16, the youngest player ever to do so. And at 15, a newspaper had already run a headline about him. At the age most kids hear stories, he hears ovations. That was Fiorito. That was the beginning. When Maradona was 17, he was the best young footballer in Argentina. Everyone knew it. And then the 1978 World Cup squad was announced. He wasn't in it. He cried. Not even at the USA 1994 with a drug test did I cry so much. On that day, the saddest of my career, I swore I would get my revenge. It was the biggest disappointment of my life. It marked me forever. It defined me. I felt it in my legs and in my heart and in my mind that I would show them all. But here's what happened next. He found a word for what he felt: bronca. In Argentina, bronca means anger, a deep, burning fury. And Maradona realized something about himself. I realized that bronca was a fuel for me. It really got me revved up. I played best when I was after revenge. 2 days after finding out, he put on the Argentino strip and went onto the pitch. They beat Chacarito 5-0. He scored 2 and made 2. The rejection that broke him became the engine that drove him. 2 years later, at the 1979 Youth World Cup in Japan, Argentina went into the final against the Soviet Union. He was obsessed with one image. I imagined walking down the airplane steps with a cup in my hands. It was like a film going around my head all the time. Before the final, he went into the last shower and prayed. He asked God for his mother's help. He asked God to play with him. They won 3-1. Maradona was 18 years old, and the Bronca had delivered its first trophy. By 1985, Argentina were building towards the World Cup, but nobody believed in them. Not the press, not the public, not even their own government. Maradona said, "We were being persecuted." People thought Borghi was no longer promising, that Pasculi couldn't score against anyone, that Maradona was just some small guy. Some of them were on the verge of being unable to take it anymore. But here's what the persecution did. It made them one. We were used to fighting alone. We were focused and we knew what we wanted. The feeling within the squad was that we were being persecuted. Yes, let there be no doubt about that. But at the same time, we were more united than ever. We had an indestructible solidarity. At the training camp in Mexico, Maradona and his roommate, Pasculi, decorated their room together. A little picture, a photo, a decoration, a letter. Day by day, we wanted it to be our home. For 1 whole month until the final, it was our home. It was humble, very humble. Thin brick walls, small hard beds, just one phone. But for us, it was okay because it was home. And in that room, every night, Maradona had one thought in his head. A Uruguayan captain named Obdulio Varela had said something before the 1950 World Cup final. We will only have honoured our duty once we become the champions. Not the quarterfinal, not the semi-final, the final. That was the only acceptable outcome. In 1984, Maradona signed for Napoli. 80,000 people turned up at the San Paolo just to watch him be presented. His legs were shaking. He stood in the stadium, looked out at the crowd, and said something that came, in his own words, from the bottom of his heart. "I want to become the idol of the poor children of Naples because they are like I was when I lived in Buenos Aires." He understood immediately what Napoli was. Not just a football club, a city the rest of Italy looked down on. Southern, poor, dismissed. Before Maradona arrived, Paolo Rossi had refused to join Napoli because he said Naples wasn't a city for him because of the mafia. Nobody wanted to go go to Napoli. On his debut away at Verona, they lost 3-0, and the home fans held up a banner for them. "Welcome to Italy," it said. North against South, racism against poverty. Maradona saw it and understood immediately. This was bigger than football. He knew he needed to change his body for Italian football. I knew that in order to win in Italian football, I needed a different body. So he rebuilt himself. New machine, new methods. 3 seasons later, November 9th, 1986, Napoli travelled to Turin to play Juventus. They were 1-0 down. They were 1-0 down. When Napoli equalised, the Juventus stadium exploded. Maradona couldn't understand it. He looked around and then he realised the stadium was full of Southerners, workers from Naples who had moved north to find jobs. Napoli, they were screaming. In a Juventus stadium, we had truly become the club of the working class, of the poor. Even in the north, we could count on the support of the Southerners, Southern workers who lived there. Napoli won the Serie A that season, their first ever title. In 60 years of trying, one man had done what nobody thought was possible, and he said it himself. "Before I arrived, nobody wanted anything to do with Naples. They were afraid. I arrived believing it was a beautiful bay on the Mediterranean and nothing more. But I won them over because I faced up to everyone. That's why today, any Neapolitan can tell you those teams weren't built by the directors. They were built by Maradona." The 1986 World Cup quarter-final, Argentina versus England, 22nd June 1986, the Azteca Stadium, Mexico City. 4 years after the Falklands War, Maradona was clear about what this match really was. Of course, before the match we said that football had nothing to do with the Malvinas War, but that was a lie. We did nothing but think about that. Bollocks, was it just another match? It was more than winning a game. We blamed the English players for everything that happened, for all the suffering of the Argentine people. We were defending our flag, the dead kids, the survivors. 51st minute, Maradona received the ball in this England penalty box and punched it into the net with his left fist. The referee didn't see it. Goal. He ran away celebrating. He called it the hand of God. But years later, he told the truth. Bollocks, was it the hand of God? It was the hand of Diego, and it felt a little bit like pickpocketing the English. 4 minutes later, he received the ball in his own half. Passed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 England players. Then the goalkeeper, then the net. 56 metres, 10 seconds, 6 men beat. FIFA voted it the goal of the century. Whenever I see it again, I can't believe I managed it. Not because I scored it, but because it seems like a goal that just isn't possible. A goal you could dream of, but never actually score. When the final whistle came, he was shaking the trophy, lifting it, kissing it. I lent it to the goalkeeper for a bit, but I immediately asked for it back. I wanted to be sure it was true. And the only thing that had driven him to that moment was bronca. Our strength and our togetherness was born from that, from our bronca. The bronca we felt from having had to fight against everything. After 1986, the world belonged to Diego Maradona, and then it started to take everything back. The drugs had begun in Barcelona years earlier. He admitted it himself. When you go into it, you wanted to say no, and end up hearing yourself say yes, because you believe you're going to control it, you're going to be okay, and then it gets more complicated. Cocaine, for 15 years he carried it. He called it a cancer he'd been dragging around with him. And then came USA in 1984, training 3 sessions a day, dropping from 89 kilos to 76, running 16 kilometers every morning. Months of rebuilding his body to be ready for one last World Cup. Against Argentina, he ran and ran, found strength where he had none, and played one of the best games of his career. After the final whistle, a nurse came to him at the side of the pitch for a drug test. He walked away still celebrating. 3 days later, the result came back positive. A supplement his trainer had bought in America contained ephedrine. He found out in his hotel room and said, "Help me, please help me. I'm frightened of doing something stupid." Then came the words, "Today, they cut my legs off." He went to face the press and promised himself he wouldn't cry. He couldn't keep it. "I swore on my daughter's life that I hadn't taken any drugs. I just wanted the fans to understand that I hadn't run because of those drugs, that I had run with my heart and for the jersey, nothing more." And when he said that last part, he crumbled. Fiorito, 8 children in a room, 2 meters squared, carrying oil cans to fetch water, playing in the dark on a waste ground outside Buenos Aires. Bronca, the anger that became fuel. Naples, a city the rest of Italy dismissed, a working class raised to believers. England, 1986, 2 goals, 4 minutes apart, on the cheek. One, the cheek of a pickpocket. One, still voted the greatest ever scored. USA 1994. Training 3 times a day, running 16 kilometers, giving everything he had. Cut off before the end. Near the end of his life, he said this: "If I die, I want to be born again and be a footballer. And I want to be Diego Armando Maradona again. I'm a player who has brought joy to people, and for me, that's more than enough." He was taken from a slum in Buenos Aires and kicked to the top of the world. And he wore the same pair of corduroy trousers the whole way. The greatest carry job in football history. Started in Fiorito, ended on his knees. And everything in between was Maradona.